I strive to set a high bar for my students because I know that they can do it. And my teachers believed in me, so I always want to believe in my students because, those high expectations, they can determine a lot for a child.
Welcome to Black Educators Matter. This is more than a moment. It's a movement.
Hey, it's Brooke.
And Danielle.
Welcome to Black Educators Matter. Our goal is to share the stories of 500 Black educators.
By documenting their journeys, we will highlight the important roles that Black educators play in all of our lives.
We're excited to welcome today's guest to our show.
As a do now, please tell us your name, your role in education, and answer the question, why do Black educators matter?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Shani Marie Ogilvy. I'm currently a first grade elementary teacher. And why do Black educators matter? Black educators matter because we're continuing a legacy from years before us. And I think that it's important that we carry that legacy forward.
So, Shani Marie, where are you from?
I'm from Jamaica, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I came
We
here when
love
I was
Jamaica.
about 11 or 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, do you remember, I guess, in Jamaica, as well as when you came to the United States, did you have lots of Black educators?
Yeah, in Jamaica, from like preschool up to fourth or fifth grade, it was all Black educators. So when I came here, it was like a big culture shock for me. And we moved to like a predominantly like white town. And so that was really tough. But, I think having those Black educators early in my elementary career like really set the tone for me going forward.
And what about
Same.
high school?
High school, it was predominantly white. I don't remember having a Black teacher in high school. Yeah. There was one Black teacher in the high school, but she worked more like with remediation and basic skills students. And so, I remember like seeing her in the hallway. She was always smiling, but yeah, that was the only one. College, not maybe one or two in college, but that's about it.
So look, since it was only one or two, you answered my next question. I know you didn't go to an HBCU.
I didn't go to a HBCU. Yeah, no, I didn't. Cause it's funny. Like when I was applying to colleges, like because I'm an immigrant, we had no clue about historically Black colleges, and so like I was just like, I just want to get into a college, and my guidance counselor, well, the most prestigious college here is Rutgers University. And my brother applied there and he got in, and I was so surprised because not to toot my own horn, but I did better than him in school. And I was like, oh my gosh, he got in. Like, how did he get in? And so, but I remember talking with the guidance counselor and he was telling me, like, oh, don't apply to Rutgers. And I was like, why shouldn't I apply to Rutgers? But at the time, I didn't think anything of it. But looking back at it, he was telling me don't apply to Rutgers because of my race. Yeah.
Wait, so your guidance counselor was looking out for you even then?
No. He wasn't. He was telling me not to apply, if that makes sense.
Oh, so he was throwing shade.
Yeah, he told me not to apply.
Okay. So what school did you end up going to, and were you a declared education major?
Yeah, I did end up applying to Rutgers, but I went to Rutgers Camden. So they have like three campuses, and my brother went to the main one, and I went to the one in Camden. So, but it worked out for me because I ended up getting a scholarship. So, yeah.
Okay. And were you a declared education major?
No, I wasn't. Yeah, my undergrad was in business. Yeah, I know, right? I know. I did a complete like turnaround. When I finished college, I was working in business and, like marketing, and I didn't enjoy it. And I was like, I need to change. My mom's a teacher, and I said, I know, maybe I should consider being a teacher. And I went through the alternate route program, and I finished the hours and everything. And then I got a position, thankfully. And then I got my master's in elementary education.
We love and appreciate an alternative teacher training program. So shout out to those in the career changers. So as you reflect on the career, and Brooke will ask you more about your career, but are you the teacher that you needed when you were growing up?
I would like to think so. Yeah. Again, like with my upbringing in Jamaica, it was always like they always set a high bar for us. So, and I strive to set a high bar for my students because I know that they can do it. And my teachers believed in me, so I always want to believe in my students because, those high expectations, they can determine a lot for a child. Making sure that, I set those high expectations for my students because they were set for me. Yeah.
That's
I'm a
amazing.
little bit more, I would say my elementary teachers were very stern and strict. You know, I'm I can be strict, but I think I bring a little bit more warmth, you know, a little bit more warmth to it, but yeah.
So how long have you been in education? Like you said you started off in like the business sector and marketing, but then you transitioned into education. So for that time that you've been in education, how long, but also what positions have you held?
Yeah, so this is my 17th year.
Whoa,
Yeah.
you don't look like you've been in the classroom for
I
almost 20 years,
know.
girl.
I know, I get that all the time. I look pretty young, but yeah, this is my 17th year. I've been an instructional coach. I've been a supervisor. I taught kindergarten for a while, and I'm back teaching first grade. Yeah, I was a supervisor at one point, but right now I'm in the classroom. So yeah, I've enjoyed most of the role. I enjoy all the roles. They have different, what's the word I'm looking for? Different impacts. I think one of my biggest joys is teaching students how to read, teaching children how to read. Like there's nothing like it. Yeah, when
Well,
you
like
can
a
see a
light bulb
student.
moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So how have you grown? Because you name a bunch of different positions, a bunch of different grades. So how have you grown since you first began your career?
Wow. I think I've grown a lot. I think when I first started teaching, like I was very like I wanted everything to be perfect. I was like, I have to be perfect. I have to do everything. My kids always have to like me. But I've learned that like every year brings new challenges, no matter what position that you're in. And you have to like just take those challenges as opportunities and try to grow and learn from them because no matter what position that you're in, it's always going to be some challenge that you have to deal with. And just know that you can handle it, like no matter what's thrown at you you're gonna handle it because if you made it this far, you can handle it. So,
Spoken like a true vet. And that actually takes me to my question, which is what advice do you have for first year educators?
for first year educators, I would say pick one or two things that you want to work on because it gets very overwhelming. It's so much that you have to learn in your first year. The learning curve is really high. But pick one or two things. One of those things should be classroom management. Just make sure you take your time to master it because if you can learn that within your first 1 to 3 years, it makes the rest of it so much easier.
This is just one of the many stories, and we hope to keep the conversation going.
Connect with us on Facebook and Twitter at BEM Chicago.
Follow us on Instagram at blackeducators.matter and visit us online at www.blackeducatorsmatter.org.
And now, back to the conversation.
So you mentioned like the culture shock and, well, not necessarily culture shock, how long it took you to adjust
Yeah.
in the classroom, from going to or from being in school in Jamaica and then coming to the US. Do you ever see that in your students, like not necessarily, and maybe immigrants, because you're in New York, right?
No, I'm in New Jersey, but yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So have you ever experienced like that same, or have you ever seen it happen with any of your students?
Yeah, we get like a lot of newcomers from like Latin America. Sometimes they don't speak English at all. And they have a period of time where they're just quiet. They just don't say anything. Yeah, I've taught preschool also, and I've seen it when I taught preschool. I had a Chinese student. He came brand new to the country. He couldn't speak English, anything, and it just so happened we went on a field trip, and he saw like another Chinese family talking Chinese, and his eyes just light up. He's like, "Oh, somebody else like me."
Oh,
Yeah, so but I think once they see like, yes, there's others like me, they feel more welcomed and appreciated. And in my district, well, in my school, we have a lot of newcomers from like Latin America. If they're not newcomers, they've been in the country for a couple of years.
okay.
Yeah.
So because you've done this for so long and seen it, I imagine in 17 years, you've seen a whole lot. Has
Yeah.
there ever been a time in your career where you didn't want to do this anymore?
Yeah, I've had my days. Yeah, if I'm honest. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it does get to that point because dealing with behaviors, I don't know other teachers' experiences, but depending on where you work, dealing with behaviors can be very challenging because the teacher gets triggered sometimes and you have to like manage it. Like, this is not about me. I shouldn't take it personal, but we're human beings. And sometimes if you have like, when I first started teaching, you would have like one or two kids with like behavioral issues, but for some reason, and I could be wrong, I feel like the past couple of years, like even after the pandemic, like now you have like five, six kids with behavioral issues that you're trying to manage. Each kid has to have like an individualized behavior plan. And it's overwhelming, and sometimes you're just like,
Yeah.
do I really, is this something I want to continue? But I always go back to like, I love to learn and grow, and like teaching reading is just like one of my passions. So I just think of those times when like, I know like if I can take a kid from like not reading to like proficiently reading, or sometimes like a couple weeks ago, a student I had in first grade, he's in fourth grade now. And I said, "Oh, I saw, you passed the NJSLA," because they show the data. And I was like, "Oh, congratulations." And he's like, "Oh, it was because of you." I was so shocked. I really, but I had this student in first grade, and I was like you.
3 whole years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like I tried to just think of like times like those, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing important work. I need to stay in this. Yeah.
I love that story. So, reflecting on your own educational journey, what you have seen over the last 17 years across the different positions that you've held, what, in your opinion, what would you say is the state of education in Black America, and how did we get here?
Whew, yeah, that's a very complex and complex and challenging question. But I think it's a lot of factors that go into it. The achievement gap, years of discrimination, and lack of funding or underfunding for schools. But sometimes I look, when I look at test scores, I look at state test scores, I look at my district's test scores, and I see, again, the achievement gap. It can be very discouraging. when you look at all the data and everything that you see, you're like, really, like, what's really going on? You know, you have a lot of questions. Well, I have a lot of questions. Um, I would like to see things get better. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I do think like we have a lot of work to do because I think of like, you know, our ancestors in the past, like they were able to produce like, you know, doctors and lawyers and you know that like yes, do we still have some of those things? Are we still producing those types of citizens? We are, but like, can we do better? Yeah, yeah.
So it's funny that you mentioned like our call to or from our ancestors, and you know, like what should we be aiming to accomplish because they've gone through so much and persevered. What would your call to action be for Black educators?
My call to my call to Black educators would be to continue to persevere, but also, and everybody talks about self-care and taking care of yourself. It's like a cliche thing. And does it really solve like the systemic issues? No. But I think persevering, but also know that you're doing important work. And again, at the same time, like taking care of yourself to make sure that you're not overburdening yourself, you're not burning out because you can't do the work if you're burnt out. So yeah, just persevere. Remember, you know, try to have some joy in there and take care of yourself.
Because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, exactly.
We love emphasizing joy. So shout out to that. Tell us about your work, The Teacher's Impact.
Yeah, so the Teacher's Impact is a podcast that I created. It helps teachers to master their craft, use their voice, and enhance student learning. I started it, funnily enough, during the pandemic because I felt like it was so much going on in education, and I feel like teachers really don't get a voice. You know, we're always mandated to do all these things, to implement all this curricula, but at the end of the day, we're doing the groundwork. So we have to have a say in what happens in our classrooms. And that's one of the reasons I started the podcast. I also interview teachers occasionally, and I give, you know, strategies and tips for teachers that they can use in the elementary classroom.
How can people support The Teacher's Impact?
They can support the Teacher's Impact by listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find the Teacher's Impact there. Just search Teacher's Impact Podcast. You can also visit the website, and I have freebies and everything that you can download.
So you mentioned in the beginning how many Black educators you had, and they were far and few in between once you start getting older. But are there any Black educators that went out of their way to aid in your success?
Yeah, in my elementary school years, I felt like all of those teachers like played a part in helping me to where I am today because I had them from like pre-K to so like one teacher per year. That's like five teachers that really helped me. Well, Mr. Duncan, he was my fifth grade teacher. He really pushed me to really try to do well because in Jamaica we have like this big standardized exam that everybody has to pass. And if you don't pass it, you can't go to high school. But long story short, yeah, he really pushed me to make sure that I did well and I could go to the school that I wanted to go to.
Well, shout out to Mr. Duncan. Thank you so much, Shannon Marie, for coming on to the Project 500 podcast, sharing more about your own podcast, The Teacher's Impact. As you know, we love to give teachers a voice. We love to interview an educator because every single person has such a unique journey and brings different gifts to the space. So thank you for coming on the show. And as a reminder, everything that you've done over these last 17 years, it was, it is, and it always will be worth it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Black Educators Matter. Remember, Make excellence equitable and thank a Black teacher today.